Welcome, everybody. We're so happy to have you here today to spend some time. And we're going to talk about the emotional intelligence experience and really give you an introduction to what emotional intelligence is all about. So, here you've no doubt heard about Alma La Vida. And here at Alma La Vida, we believe that great leaders aren't born, they're made. And we so believe that because we use a really wonderful blend of one-on-one coaching sessions to really help our clients elevate in their leadership and elevate their lives. And we know Alma La Vida means love your life. And that's what we really want our clients and those that we work with to do. And here are our two co-owners in the picture. And Alma La Vida we do coaching for career, leadership, life, and health. So really all aspects of your life, we're able to coach with you in those areas. And no doubt, we all look at those areas of our lives and definitely, we see things that we can improve on or have goals that we want to improve on. So we here at Alma La Vida are help you to do that. And as I said, we're here to help you love your life. So thank you for coming to spend some time with me for the next hour or so. My name is Hayley Dennis, and here at Alma La Vida, I'm a leadership and career coach. So you may think, well, I know what career coaching is. What's leadership? So leadership coach generally works with those that are either in leadership roles, looking to get into leadership roles. And really, when we think about leadership, we all have to lead on all areas of our life. So leadership can really touch all areas of our life, professionally and personally. And of course, with career coaching, that's those that are looking for career transitions. I really enjoy working with clients that maybe have come to that crossroads and they're thinking, you know what, I'm ready to make that transition, or I've been doing something for a while, or I want something new. I've been doing this role for a long time and I want something new to go into. So that's a lot of what I really enjoy working with clients on around those areas. So today we're going to talk about why emotional intelligence is important. And I know many of us have heard, emotional intelligence and why it's important and, all that. So we're going to talk about why it is. And then we're going to talk about what are the core competencies of emotional intelligent behaviors, how we can apply emotional intelligence in the workplace, how we can strengthen the core competencies of emotional intelligence. And then we'll have some time at the end for some questions and answers. So feel free also to hold those questions, or for something that's burning, go ahead and type it into the chat and we can talk about it as we go throughout. So how are you feeling today? That's a question that, people ask, like, how are you? And a lot of times we just say, I'm good. But really, how are you feeling today? So in the chat window, go ahead and type in 3 words that describe how you're feeling today. And as you do so, we'll be able to, the entire group will see how you're feeling today. And Natalia, if you want to read some of those off as people put them into the chat, feel free. I know for me, I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling happy. Those are 2 that I'm feeling right now because I love talking about emotional intelligence. So they really, get me excited. And I get those feelings when I talk about that. And then we know that, sometimes there's so much going on at summertime, kids may be getting ready to go back to school, we're figuring out work, all these many things are going on in our lives today. So no doubt we've had lots of different emotions in the past few months, even over the last year. Our emotions may have been kind of overwhelmed and things like that. But maybe now we're starting to feel, maybe there's a little light at the end of the tunnel. And we're getting we're getting more hope, or we've been able to get back around family again. All those things are emotions that we are able to feel and start, getting back into it, feeling positive, feeling happy again.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot in the chat: energized, stressed, overwhelmed, hopeful, excited, some nervous and calm. So a lot of emotions that work together, even though they seem like opposites. Positive, tired, content. So great.
Awesome. Amazing. I know, definitely a word, overwhelmed, we've heard a lot. I love the content too, and the excited, positive. We probably felt negative so much, but now we're starting to feel. And of course, a lot of that, as people have said, stress comes along with that. So we're going to talk about some of those emotions and things today. So thank you for sharing that. That was great. Really great. So, no doubt if you've read some articles or seen some recent news articles or things going around the past year, talks about EI as the must-have skill. And so we know that really EI is the way you show up determines the way people feel. And the way they feel determines the extent that they can engage. And that inspires pretty much everything about the outcome of that relationship. So I'm so happy for you to join me as I bring you the EI experience, how emotional intelligence really touches every aspect of our lives. So we're gonna have a little fun to get started, and we're gonna test your knowledge a little bit. So we're gonna Natalia's gonna put up a poll. And how much more money do emotional intelligent people make? Take your best guess and see what you think that is. We'll give you a few minutes to think about it and submit your answers. You may be surprised, but we'll see what the correct answer is going to be. What are we getting, Natalia? How are our results looking?
So we've got about an even split between C and D, so 23,000 and 29,000. And then a few people selected B and one person selected A.
Awesome. You know what? You guys are some emotional intelligent people because, right, that split, that half and half, the correct answer is D. So your guys are right on. So we must have some very, very emotional intelligent people in our group today. So I'm happy to be here with you. That was great. But yes, studies have shown that emotional intelligent people make $29,000 more than others who are not emotional intelligent. So we see how important that we know and are aware of what emotional intelligence is and how we show up.
Hayley, there's a good question. Is this, someone asked if that's per year or how, like, what's the basis?
Yes, it's per year. Article said per year. Very good question. Yes. Oh, good. So now the question comes up, why is emotional intelligence so important? And you know what? I could sit here and read all kinds of articles, and there's tons of books and tons of studies and tons of things that have been written. And there are some of the really good stuff out there. But today, instead of telling you, I'm going to show you. I want you to experience it yourself and see, why that is. So we're going to have some fun. So I want you to take out 2 sheets of paper or, a little notepad, or you have a sticky note or whatever is close by that you can grab that you can write on, or if you can use your phone, if you like to put notes into your phone. I like you to grab that real quick. So I'll give you a few seconds. You may need to grab a notebook or a piece of paper or something like that. We're going to have a really fun exercise to show you how emotional intelligence is. So I want you to think about someone from your present or even from your past who had a really positive impact on you. Now, ideally, that'd probably be a manager or a leader who really impacted you in a good way. But it can also be anybody from your life who impacted you in this manner. So if you can't think of a leader or a boss, then or a manager, then anybody else that may have impacted your life. And I want you to write his or her name on the top of that first sheet of paper. Give you a few more minutes to kind of think about that person and get that name down. Alrighty. Now, I want you to rate this person. You're going to rate your best boss or coworker or mentor. And I'm going to, as we see on the screen, there are 6 statements on here. And I'll read the first one and then you can read the remaining ones. But I'd like you to think about that person and the way he or she behaved. And I want you to rate them on that scale of 1 to 5 that we see there. So on that scale, if they showed this, so I'll read the first one. The first one says that they demonstrate awareness of their moods and emotions. So do they do that significantly less than others? That would be a 1. or if they really demonstrate their awareness of their moods and emotions significantly more than others, it would be a 5. And if they're somewhere in between, then you can go ahead and select the appropriate score from the scale. So when you've decided on the score, you can write 1 to 6 down on your piece of paper. Go ahead and write it down on that sheet of paper. And we're going to do the same thing for each one. So think about demonstrates awareness of their moods and emotions. How would you rate that person? Significantly less than others, or more than others, or somewhere in between? And then for that second statement, makes others feel appreciated. That's an important one to me, but I'll talk more about, I won't go into detail right now. I'll let you guys think about that. How would you rate that person as far as making others feel appreciated? And then the third one, they're open and honest about mistakes. How well did they demonstrate that? And then number 4, makes ethical decisions. Number 5, manages their emotions effectively in difficult situations. And I know that's all something we always think about for ourselves is, did I can, control my emotions in that difficult situation? How did I come across? But think about that person and how did they demonstrate that? And then finally, number 6, recognizes others' hard work and achievements. What number would you rate them for that between 1 and 5? So I'll give you a little bit longer to think about those. And you should have 6 scores, 1 for each statement. Okay, so I hope everybody has gotten a chance to get those down for all those 6 statements. And you should have 6 scores. Alrighty. Now, how did your best boss make you feel? Think about how you typically felt when you were around that person. We all know when we are around people that make us feel good, that obviously you chose this person for a reason. What impact did they have on you? Write down just a few words on your sheet of paper that summarize how they made you feel when you were around them. And I'll give you 20 seconds to go ahead and write down as many words or as few. But many people, when they're thinking about the best person and how they make them feel, they find it hard to stop writing words. So I'll give you a few seconds to think about words and how they made you feel, and you can write those down. All righty, so I hope you got some good words down because we're going to talk about them a little bit later. Now, we're going to look on the other side of the coin. I'm going to flip that coin over. And I'd like you now to think about someone from your past or present that was difficult or challenging for you to deal with. Again, ideally, we want to think about either a leader or a manager you've worked for. Would be a really good demonstration of this. But again, it could be anyone from your life that impacted you in the wrong ways. So now take that second sheet of paper or turn it over, and I want you to write that person's name on the top of that sheet of paper. All right, you got that person in mind? Sometimes that person's name pops up immediately when you think about that worst person, either the worst boss, the worst mentor, the worst coworker. So go ahead and do that. All right, got their name down. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to score this person on these same statements and the way he or she behaved and rate them on the scale of 1 to 5. So again, demonstrates awareness of their moods and emotions. How would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 being significantly less than others, and again, 5 being significantly more than others, or somewhere in between. And then we're going to go on to the second one. Makes others feel appreciated. How would you rate this person on that, on being able to make others feel appreciated? And then again, being open and honest about mistakes. And the fourth one, how would you rate them on making ethical decisions? And then number five, how do they manage their emotions effectively in difficult situations? And then finally, number six, how would you rate them on recognizing others' hard work and achievements? Again, significantly less than others, about one, or significantly more than others, giving them a five. Okay, so you should have 6 scores. You should have one for each statement. All right, everybody good with that? All right, good. So now we're going to go to that second part of the exercise. How did your worst boss make you feel? Think about how you typically felt when you were around this person. How did they make you feel? This is about the impact that they had on you again. So write down a few simple words that summarize how they made you feel when you were around them. So I'll give you a few minutes to think about those words and write those down. Get those words down. All righty. It may be a little less words this time than we had for the last time, or a different kind of words that we wrote down for our worst boss. So good. So hopefully everybody got their words down for that. Now, go to that first sheet, the one where you rated your best boss or coworker and the impact they had on you, and add up those 6 scores for this person and write the total on your sheet. So with us having 6 questions, the minimum score would be a 1, and then we have the maximum being a 5. So we should have a number somewhere between 5 and 30. And go ahead in the chat and share your scores. So once you total up your scores for your best boss, go ahead and share the total number in the chat, and let's see what comes up.
So lots of 24s, 29s, 26 for the high ones. And then we see 15, 14, 10, 8.
Yeah, really good, really high scores. That's really good. That shows they had a really good, those 20 and above, that they had a really good, they were really emotionally aware. We'll get a little bit more deeper into the scores, but yeah, really, we usually see really high scores around when we're rating that best boss. Now, let's go to the other side of it. The one where you had rated the boss or coworker that had that negative impact upon you, or whom you found difficult or challenging to interact or work with. Let's add up those 6 scores. And once you get the total for those scores for your worst boss, go ahead and share those in the chat.
We're seeing 7, 11, 8, 10, 13, 17, 5, 6.
Very good. Yes, we definitely see that those had the negative, more of that worst experience. We see those lower scores come in on those ends. Definitely. So I think it's fair to say that these 2 people had quite a different impact upon you, right? When we look at the difference in the scoring from the first to the second person, they're probably quite different, no doubt, right? And in some cases, really dramatically. We may have had a 29 on that worst person. We may have had maybe a 6, on that person. Some people say, I'm going to put a 0. for that worst boss because they just felt they weren't even on the chart. They just didn't experience it at all. So we really see those differences. And what you've just done. What you've just done is if you've rated the observable emotional intelligence of these two people. You are able to see clearly how it's possible to really measure and score the difference between the way one person turned up and had that positive impact on you and the way other person had that negative impact upon you. And also, what you should notice too is that what you use to score these two people were just behaviors. We weren't looking at their attributes over which they had no control, like, their height, eye color, things like that, physical things like that. We were truly just looking at their behaviors. But really, it really represents the way that these two people that you chose today, how they chose to show up in their interactions with you. And you know what? The really good news is that if you were the low scoring person and you saw that impact and you didn't like to think of yourself that way, then guess what? You can change it. That's the beautiful thing about that. Behavior is a choice. How we choose to show up, how we choose to behave, and sometimes giving someone a look at how the impact that they're having is more than enough to incentivize them to want to make that change enough so that they can begin to change their behaviors. Because sometimes we're not aware of our behavior, but when we're made aware, then we're able to make those changes. So for the higher scoring person that you had, there's good news too. Did you notice that there weren't how few perfect scores? I don't think we had anybody that had like an exactly, perfect score, maybe one or two or a few 30s, but that's because these people turned up in a totally positive way in most situations all of the time. We felt in each of those six areas that you rated them in that they showed up positively for us. But they could choose to take note of those situations where their behavior may have been a little less positively and impactful. Maybe there was one area where you rated them a little lower, and then they can be able to modify that behavior so that they can have an even more positive effect. And if they're a leader, then they can engage their employees more completely, for instance. That's something that a lot of leaders are dealing with today with the change in, being hybrid and working from home and all that. So if they're aware of certain behaviors, they can change them and become a better leader and have a better impact. So remember those bullets that you wrote down about how those two people made you feel? So in the chat, let's share those words. Share some of those words that you wrote down about how that best person made you feel. I love these words when people share these words. I can't wait to hear some of them.
Yeah, we're seeing inspired, motivated, seen, appreciated, capable, valued, ecstatic, important. Those are good words.
Yes, those are amazing words. I'm like, if I felt like that every day, we'd all be like, yes. Yes, those are some really, really great words. So thank you guys so much for sharing those words. That was really powerful, really, really powerful. Because when we all feel those words and see those words, no doubt we feel good. We feel great that we've been able. And it's so great too that you've had a person in your life that was able to make that impact on you. So that's really, really wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. So now let's go back to the dark side for a little bit. And we're going to do that same exercise for the worst person. So go ahead and share in the chat the words that brought up for you. What words did you think about?
Invisible, abused, horrible, annoyed, frustrated, insignificant, defensive, anxious, discriminated, unsafe.
I hear that a lot with that. Yes, definitely. And those are all words that we don't want to feel in that situation, right? Those are not words that we want to feel every day. We don't want people around us that have that impact. And can you imagine if you had someone like that in your life for a very long period of time, the toll that that would take on you? We're all human. We all have emotions. So being made to feel that way it's not going to be productive for us. So that's why, we had that person that had that low score in those words because of the behaviors that they exhibited toward us or toward others. So again, thank you so much for being so open and sharing, how that person impacted you. Because I can feel, that when people impact you for the negative, that it doesn't even have to necessarily always be something they said. It could just be their presence. When they come into the room, the air of the room may change, when they came in. Because we know that neuroscience tells us or reminds us that there are maybe 3 or 4 times where we are really attuned to our negative experiences in life. And those negative experiences have a really dramatic and memorable impact upon us. Sometimes we just can't forget them. They're always going to be stuck in the back of our head because that impact that they had on us. And really, that's the whole point of this exercise. Every single one of us is impacting everyone we interact with every day in and day out, personally or professionally. We all have some type of impact on others. And if the way we impact people is in any way important to us, if we're managers, maybe we're tasked with engaging people to give their best efforts, or maybe you're a parent with the responsibility of giving that next generation the best possible life, then how we impact people, our emotional intelligence is so important. So now let's summarize what we've seen so far. So first, we saw that the way we show up, the extent to which we choose to behave in an emotionally intelligent manner, has a huge impact on how we influence people, whether it be positive or negative. Second, we saw that we could easily identify the differences between someone with high emotional intelligence and someone with low emotional intelligence, just by simply observing the behaviors when they were around us. And third, we saw that we could easily and objectively score our level of EI, or even that of someone else in this exercise, so that we can understand not only how we develop these capabilities as of right now, but also if we need to develop them more, if there's areas that we can work on or identify behaviors that we need to change the most. And finally, all of these behaviors are clear choices because guess what? We choose how we show up. We can make changes in our behavior toward others, and also we can allow some time for them to have the impact that we've seen that they'll always have on people. So we go back. So let's ask you to do this for yourself. Think about those for yourself. Maybe take a day and rate yourself on how you think you showed up that day. And then maybe in a few weeks or months, if you identify something that you really weren't happy with, you felt, maybe I want to show up in a different way in how I handle myself in different situations. Write that down and to kind of keep note or keep track of yourself over the next couple of weeks when you go through different situations and see, were you able to make any changes? Were you able to see what you were doing were changing and how it was impacting people? You may even ask a close friend or someone that knows you. If I used to act this way, have you seen any differences in my behavior over the last few months? Get feedback. Feedback is a wonderful thing because it really helps us to know if what we're doing is working and if it's being effective. So this is one of my all-time favorite quotes, and it's by Maya Angelou. And it says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And that is just so true because as we did this exercise, we talked about it. If we thought about that worst person or that worst boss we had, that feeling of those words you all typed into the chat of how that person made you feel, you never forgot that. That stayed with you because those are words that you don't want to feel that way. But then on the flip side, that the best boss or the best person you had, that person, those words stuck with you. So we know that the feelings and the emotions that people give are so, so important, and that they really do stick with us. So now you're wondering, well, what makes up emotional intelligence? What are we rating? What are we talking about? So those things that we kind of talked about earlier. This is the Genos EI core competency model. And so there are 6 core competencies that we see listed here. There's self-awareness, awareness of others, authenticity, emotional reasoning, self-management, and inspiring performance. And I like this chart because it tells you when you're in an unproductive state and when you're in a productive state. And it all starts with who? It starts with us, right? Because the very first one is self-awareness. So we have to become self-aware with ourselves first, and then we can do the other ones that follow. So when we think about when we're in a great self-aware, productive state, how are we behaving? We're present. We're right there with it. We're engaged. When we're in that unproductive state, we're disconnected. We've all seen someone that, really isn't aware of their surroundings, their actions, their emotions, and then we say that person's disconnected or they're off or something's, they're having a bad day. All those, they're disconnected from everything. So they're not able to be self-aware in those type of situations. When we think about being aware of others, no doubt in the last year or year and a half of what we've seen, empathy has definitely been needed and been showed. We say a lot of times in the past, we say, how are you doing? Everybody says good. But now, really taking the time when you ask someone, how are you doing? To be empathetic, to listen to them. We never know. If say we had to come into the office one day, we don't know what it was like. And maybe we passed someone coming in the door and we say good morning. And they didn't say good morning back. Immediately, what's our response? I said good morning to them. They didn't say good morning back to me. How dare them? Or I spoke to them. But you don't know what that woman or that person just had to go through to get to work. Maybe they got in that car accident. Maybe that, they had a sick child. Maybe they had something else going on or something going on in their family life. So many things. And they were so caught up thinking about that, they didn't even hear you speak to them. It was like a blur, like they were just walking to the door and that's all they needed to do was just get into that door and they didn't hear you. And by maybe if you saw them later on in the day, you may say, well, I spoke to them and they didn't speak to me that morning. I'm not going to say anything to them. But your emotional intelligence comes into play. And you think, let me say hey to them again and see what happens. And you speak to them now and they're saying, hey, how you doing? And you may say, hi, how are you? And they start telling you, man, I had a morning or I had a rough night. And you're able to see and understand where they were coming from. So that's why empathy is so, so important. And the opposite of that is being insensitive, because we saw that example that I just talked about if we were insensitive and just kind of wrote them off. Authenticity, that's a word that we hear a lot today, and it has become very important as well, because we want to be genuine. Everyone wants to come in and be genuine. We all say we want to show up as being genuine and authentic. And that's something that we all can appreciate, because no one wants to be untrustworthy or known as being an untrustworthy person. We want to be around those people that are genuine. And then when we think about our emotional reasoning, being able to reason on things. We've all, no doubt in our lives at some point, made a hot-headed decision, right? We've been caught up in our emotion and we make a decision based on our emotion. But when we have that emotional reasoning, we're able to be expansive. We're able to think beyond. We're not just limited in the unproductive state, but we're able to be open to new things and to reason on things. And another word that we've heard a lot around self-management is being resilient. I've heard that so much today because, everything's changing. So we're having to bounce back. We're having to be resilient. We're having to find different ways to do things. And in that unproductive state, you can be temperamental or, kind of stuck, not wanting to change. But when we're able to manage ourselves, we're able to be resilient and to keep going. And then this is one that's really close and dear to my heart, is inspiring performance. Because no doubt you all, when you thought about probably that best boss or best leader or best person, You thought about empowering and how they empowered you and how they impacted you. And we hear, and I say it myself, and we all say that, we want to be able to have an impact on others, especially as leaders. When you're leading a team, you're leading others, you're managing others, you're leading your family, your children, or a team or a group. You want to have an impact. You want to know that you were able to help them in some way, empower them. It doesn't have to be, moving mountains. Maybe we just move, a little seed, but it's that being able to inspire, give that feeling and not have that feeling of indifference, which is on the unproductive side. So we're going to give this, we're going to give this handout. We're going to send it out to you guys in an email afterwards. And I always like to tell my clients, print this out or keep it on your phone or screenshot it or something. And then, maybe pick one. And as you go throughout your day, kind of look at yourself and say, how did I do today? What my self-awareness, was I present or was I disconnected? And just kind of put like a little tick mark and do that for, like, say, a week. And then see at the end of that week, how did you perform? How did you behave? And if you see an area where you feel, you said, man, I really was on that other side, maybe choose that to say, hey, this is something that I want to work on or something that I want to improve. And it's a great little exercise to help us to be more emotional, intelligent, aware of ourselves and our behaviors. So we'll look at them just a little bit different, just a little more in depth. So we talked about self-awareness, really being aware of our moods and feelings. And, everyone isn't always that aware. Maybe we don't want to show emotion. We've all said, we all know the emotional person and we say, I don't want to be that person. But when we think about being aware of our moods and feelings, and that takes us into how we show up, how are we showing up, more present, that demonstrates, people are able to see that. And then that helps us in our awareness of others and being able to make others feel appreciated. And no doubt that's something that we all appreciate, is when other people let us know that they appreciate what we do. I don't know about you, but maybe you've seen someone, you run into somebody you haven't seen in a really long time, and they tell you something or share something with you that you did for them or helped them, and you had absolutely no idea. And they said, what you did for me changed my life, and you didn't even know it. How does that make you feel? You feel great, right? You're like, wow, I didn't even know that. And you did it without even knowing. So when we're aware of ourselves and make other people feel appreciated, it's a wonderful thing and a great interchange. And then again, with authenticity, that was one of the things that we rated on, being open and honest about our mistakes. And granted, none of us like to shout from the rooftops when we make mistakes and talk about them. But when we're able to recognize them and be open and honest about them, then guess what? We can grow and learn from them. With our emotional reasoning, making those ethical decisions. And we know that's not always easy, when we're doing things, and it may be easy to cut corners sometimes, but really looking at what is the best route for everyone involved for us to take. And with self-management, being able to manage our emotions effectively in difficult situations, that proves to be really important, especially professionally when we're dealing with other people, and being able to effectively show up in those situations. And then inspiring performance, really recognizing the others' hard work and achievements and making them feel good about it. And no doubt at work, we feel great when our manager or someone else on a project that we worked on says, good job, I really appreciate that, you really knocked it out the park. That makes us feel good, right? We really feel good. And sometimes we, maybe not give as much accommodation as we can or we should. Maybe we hold back. But guess what? It makes us feel good. And it really shows that we're in tune and are showing, exhibiting emotional intelligence. So let's do a little bit of reflection. Of those competencies that we just spoke about, those 6, what is one that you would like to develop? Think about it. Maybe your authenticity, your self-awareness. What comes to mind for you all when you think about that one competency? And go ahead and write down 2 things that you'd like to do in the next 2 weeks that you can start preparing so you can effectively demonstrate this competency. Doesn't have to be this huge, big thing, but just two small things that you could easily start doing to help you effectively demonstrate this competency. give you a little few minutes to reflect on that and jot something down. And definitely feel free, if you just need to write one down right now, maybe you want to reflect a little bit later on after you think about it. Definitely do that as well if nothing's coming to mind right now, or you really want to put a little bit more thought into it. So I hope you were able to write something down, and that's great. And you were able to do that. So now this is the time where we're going to have some question and answer. So if you have any questions about anything that we discussed or anything about emotional intelligence, or if you want to share what competency you want to work on, feel free to do that as well. And we'll open that up.
Yeah, feel free to pop any questions in the chat or unmute yourself if you want to ask it directly.
Empathy, I definitely, yeah, I see that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I was going to ask Hayley, what do you think is the one that people want to work the most on or have like the most trouble with, the ones when you're kind of talking about all the competencies?
Definitely empathy definitely comes up, because a lot of people feel that, you know, it's so easy to get caught up into our own day-to-day and what's going on in our life, and you know, we automatically have ideas or things pop into our heads, and we don't take that time to really understand or kind of see where other people are coming from. And we're all guilty of that. We all you know, immediately make a statement or judge someone, and we don't really take that empathetic thought about you know, how we're doing. And then also too, another big one is recognizing others and really, you know, sharing our appreciation for them. Because I had a, you know, I think, well, I don't know if everybody has, but we've all maybe no doubt had a manager or a boss that, you know, could always point out what was wrong or what was bad or what was incorrect, but we rarely got the commendation or the good job, or you know, that was really thoughtful, that was a really great comment, that type of encouragement, that type of commendation. And then of course the biggest is usually self-awareness, because we all, you know, we all are constantly every day doing things, and so being able to really be self-aware, I think, for ourselves helps us begin to be able to be self-aware of others. Because if we're not able to identify and understand our own emotions and how they're affecting others and our behaviors, then once we start that with our own self-awareness, then we can really start to see that and be self-aware of others and pick up on their emotions and how they're feeling and what's going on there.
Yeah, there's a great question in the chat from Corey that says, what if your HR manager has terrible emotional intelligence? How can you impact the EI of others around us?
That's a really great question, because that's the person that probably, you know, from the organization, the HR standpoint, should really have. So you tell them they need to come have they need to have an emotional intelligence webinar. But really it's maybe that conversation. So maybe if it's not that person, maybe it's someone that works under them. Sometimes it's, as we talked about, that person may not be aware of how they're coming across and how their behaviors are affecting others, and maybe it's just them needing to have that brought to their attention. Sometimes it can be something simple as a you know, a survey. I know some companies do like surveys, and they get surveys back, or having a conversation with someone, you know, in that situation that's either maybe a peer of theirs, and just letting them know, you know, hey, we were discussing this, and you know, we found that, you know, other people are you know, kind of feeling this way, and we, you know, having that open dialogue and that open discussion, because we all know too that it's very easy to have, you know, we can all get around the water cooler, so to, you know, back when we had the water cooler, and have those conversations, and everybody kind of shares their gripes and how they're feeling and this and that. But the leadership team, they don't know. And a lot of times, as I said, people are just not aware of how their behaviors are affecting others. So like I said, maybe it's having that conversation with your manager to let them know, you know, oh, I've been talking to some others and this is how we're feeling, or can we have like an open dialogue or have a survey? I don't know if you guys do surveys where you work, or, bringing that up to your manager to see how, you can get it to their ear, because maybe if your manager may be in those meetings or can take the concerns of others to the higher ups or the other higher up leaders in that group and be able to share that. Because I hear that so much that, the other employees underneath some of the higher executives, they don't have a voice, or how do we let them know that that isn't working? So I would say start off with your manager and having that conversation with them to kind of let them know, and being open and discussing with them, and share what you learned today. Say I went to an emotional intelligence webinar, and how it'd be great if we could maybe incorporate this at our company or have a discussion or a webinar about that, and that can open up the conversation around that.
Great. We have another question from Amanda. She said, I'm from the South and was raised to be overly polite. I was told in past employee reviews this rings as inauthentic to people. Do you have any strategies that can help improve authenticity? Or
That's something that I hear so many people, feel that they want to show up as being authentic, and that's something that they really want to come across as being genuine. And I say what helps with authenticity is really taking the time to be yourself. And a lot of times, as you said, you were being overly polite, and that can be a really hard area for a lot of people, because we're, I think about to the phrase or term, as we're growing up, and they say, children should be seen and not heard. And that mentality sometimes carries over as we get into adults and we get into the work world and we're in the work environment and we're supposed to be polite and, not being, and so then we aren't able to come out and show ourselves and be authentic. But I say it can start with just being authentic with one person. Maybe you start with one coworker and you start building a relationship with them and being able to be yourself. And then I always say authenticity attracts authenticity. So as you begin to develop that relationship with I say start with one person, then it's kind of like, I don't know why it works that way, but it's like the polar effect. And, other people start noticing, or they start seeing that relationship you're building. And especially today, if we're remote, if we don't see each other. So we really have to spend our time getting to know each other, or conversing over the phone or over video chat. And I know that a lot of teams have started, having that coffee time. And so instead of having, maybe you have a daily stand-up meeting every day, or, weekly, or whatever it may be, take time out of that to have a personal time. I know one team, they said they took a Friday and they called it coffee hour, and they didn't talk about work. They just talked about what was going on with each of them. And of course, she said everybody at first didn't want to share, because they didn't feel comfortable, because they were like, well, they don't know me, I'm not going to share. But as it went on week after week, people started feeling more comfortable. They started being able to show up as themselves, as their true, authentic, genuine selves. And that really helps, when you start small and then go out and the group kind of grows and you're able to build trust. Because I found that most people, when they feel comfortable, when they feel safe, and when they feel that they can trust individuals, they're going to be more vulnerable. And that comes with being authentic, is being our true selves, being not afraid to be vulnerable. And we're able to take some of those walls down a little bit, then we're able to feel more comfortable and be our true authentic self. So I hope that helped.
Yeah, and Katie shared something really great, that when someone asks how she is, she tries to really consider how she's feeling and shares part of that to just really initiate a more vulnerable conversation, and starting that and letting others feel safe to do so as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really great. That is really great. Because like you said, back in the day, usually we're just so quick to say, I'm good, I'm fine. We could be falling apart on the inside, and we're not going to, but we don't want to share that emotion. Again, that goes back to authenticity. We're not being our authentic self. We're not sharing how those feelings are. And we don't have to, let the floodgates open and just pour everything out on that person. But like, I think it was Katie, or like she said, doing that one, taking that one emotion or one just little piece and sharing that, And that can open up the conversation. And you never know, by doing that, the person that you're talking to, they may have been feeling that way too, but they weren't sure they wanted to share. So now you've shared, they trust you, they feel good, they share, and you start a whole conversation about that. You're able to build that relationship. So that's really, really, really great point and a great question.
Great. Any other questions?
So I really don't have any more. I really am so happy you guys were able to come join today. And I really hope, seeing emotional intelligence really at work and how we see how our behaviors really affect each other and how, we may not even think about it at times, but really, really the effect it can have is so important. And it really helps us. I know there's an author I really like that talks about being vulnerable and being courageous. And those are all things as leaders that we really, value. When we've had a leader that has been, we can call an authentic, genuine leader. It really, that person really has that impact on us. And truly, and that's something I think that a lot of people are working on as well, is being vulnerable, being courageous, because the term new normal, I'm sure you guys have heard it a lot. We're trying to get to what that new normal is. And that is going to involve a lot of change, things we're not used to. It's going to make us uncomfortable. And it's going to take us out of our comfort zone, because what we were used to in the past, it's not the same anymore. And so that's where emotional intelligence really helps us to deal with those situations, to remember that we're all humans and we're all in this together. We're all trying to survive. We're all, we all want to be happy. We want to be passionate, and we want to enjoy the things we do. And we want to be able to have an impact and really appreciate being around others. And then, making that impact and them having that impact on us is truly, truly a beautiful thing. So, I hope that you all have been able to appreciate, benefit from this. And definitely, when you get the email with the handout, take that handout and definitely use that and just kind of see how you're doing as you work on the core competencies. So that'll be really great. So definitely, Natalia's going to put my information, my consult link in the chat. So if you want to sign up and have a 30-minute consultation to talk about coaching or talk about, some goals or some things you're thinking about, or maybe you've identified the core competency and you're saying, well, I want to go for this. Maybe you want some help, or some ideas around that. Definitely set up a 30-minute consultation with me, send me an email. I would love to talk about this with you, because you guys can see I could talk about this forever. So I look forward to, sending, if you have any comments or any questions, definitely send me an email or set up that consultation and we can talk further. And I thank you so much for your time today. And I hope you have a happy and wonderful Thursday.
Thank you all. And we'll send you a follow-up. You'll have the recording and some resources. So feel free to reach out if you have any other questions once you get that. Have a good day and a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.